Alright, what we're going to do now is create the insert PHP code. Now I've created a very simple example here which I'm going to delete because I was just testing it. But before we do that, I've realized that we've made an error earlier on. And this is probably from a lack of planning on my part, and it took me a while to figure it out. So what you're going to need to do is go into your database, and on the left hand side you'll have localhost here. Go down to DB internal practice, find that one, open up the structure, click on browse, click on structure, and then click on age. Yours will say group, and click change. Change this to age group instead of group, because group is a reserved word in SQL. It means something like insert or select or order by. It means something. So you can't use the word group as a name for your field. And so I took a while to figure out what on earth it was going on with when it said I had an error in my SQL when I clearly didn't. Turns out I'd used a reserved word there. So make sure that that says age group, and then you're ready to go on. So we're going to underscore PHP, chevron question mark PHP. Create a new document, by the way, and save it as insert.php and type in this code. So we're going to start off with the connection equals MySQL I connect, and it's going to be localhost root. So these are the username, password, the location the database is going to be at, and finally the name of the database, which was practice, internal practice. And line. Don't forget those end line statements, they're really important. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it a bit better. And what this is essentially saying is this is a variable, so it's going to store this command in it, which we'll use again and again. We don't need to store it in a variable. We could type it out every time we use the variable, but that's just going to take a long time. So we may as well store it in a variable for easy use. And this here is the location that the database is at. If it was on the web, it might be on a website, and it might have something like mysql.dreamhost.com if you were using a particular web host like DreamHost, or telecom.net.nz or something like that. The root and the root here are the default passwords for MySQL, and they would not be normally left like that. You would create a MySQL user and let them access the database, and only a particular database. They wouldn't have access to everything. The root user does. And then finally, the name of the table. After that, we should put in some error checking. It is good. Data integrity, data validity, making sure that you're actually connecting to the database and not just typing stuff in and it's not going anywhere. We are going to put in if MySQL underscore connect underscore errno, which is error number. We're going to die, and we're going to type in db connection error :space dot MySQL I underscore error and $con. So this is going to give us the error associated with that. I've left something off up here, an I. So I'll add that in that bracket, and that there. Okay, so that's standard at the top of most PHP pages where you're going to want to connect to a database. You're going to have that there, and it's going to give an error if it can't connect to the database. Alright, so after that, we are going to create our variables. Now, we're going to do this a little bit differently than what you may have seen before, mainly to get you in the practice of creating variables. It's also going to make it easier when you're typing out your SQL statements. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable for each value that gets passed to this. So $name is going to equal $_post name, and that line. $house is going to equal $_post house, and line. And we're going to go on the same for a bit. Group equals $_post group. I can keep the name group over here, by the way. I can keep it there, because group is not a reserved word in HTML or PHP, so I can keep it there. And we're just going to leave a few variables for the time being. Actually, no, we'll leave them for the time being, and we will add in the M3000. $M3000 equals M $_ post M3000. Okay, now we've got that done. We've got some variables here, and we can actually use these variables again. So instead of typing this out, we can just type this out, which is much easier. So we're going to create our basic query to start with. We're going to add to this in a little while, but we're going to just create a basic query to start with. So $query equals insert into, it is sports entries, and we're going to insert into name. We'll just start with the basics first. Age group, now it is called M3000. Insert into those values, and we'll use these ones. So $name, $house, $group, $M3000. As you can see, that is a lot more straightforward than putting all those post variables in there. So we just assign those post variables to another variable. It's probably not very memory efficient, but it's not a big deal. If there were millions of users at one time, that might be a big deal. But for something like this, it's not an issue. And so we've got that query written up there. You can put this whole query on one line if it bothers you that it's split up for some reason, but it will still work over multiple lines, because this is the end line statement. It tells us when the end line is finished, and it's still all in this quotes. Okay, so then we type in if not MySQL I query. So this means if it does not work, it's going to do this stuff in here, and we're going to $con, and this is the query we're going to use. Open chevrons. We're going to tell it to die. Query error. We'll give it a meaningful name. Dot MySQL I_connect. Error. $con. Close that and that. Else is not actually necessary for one reason. If the code dies, it doesn't execute anymore. However, just to get into good practice, we will use else here. So if that bit is not true and it does do the query, we can echo one entry added. Hit save. So now we should be able to go back. I'm just going to go and delete anything from my database. There is one entry in there that I used to test it, and we're going to delete that. Yes. Okay, so we've only got an empty table now. We go back to here. I'll hit F5. We'll type in a real name, and I'll be SSH_14. I will enroll in this event. I click enroll in events. Unknown column M3000 in field list. What did I call it in here? I called it 3000M, so that would be Y. So that there should be the other way around. Save that. We'll go back to here. I'll try it again. One entry added. Awesome. So let's go and check to make sure that it is added in there. Lsmith SSH_14. Now that is a 1 because it's enrolled. Let's see what happens if I just leave it blank. So if I just leave this blank here, oops, I'll refresh this page. James Spader, we'll put him in there. James Spader. And he can be in SFY. He can be under 15. We're not going to tick any of these at the moment. It won't matter if we do because we haven't done anything with them. I'm just going to leave that blank and see what happens. Still says one entry added. Looks like it's worked. We will browse that. We've got 2, so James Spader, SFY under 15, and that's come through as a 0. Now, we're going to go in the next video, so if you've got that working, all good for this video. In the next video, we're going to look at making those checkboxes work. In your one, you'll have the option. If you think that a drop-down box is going to work better, so that the user can just go, all right, yeah, I want to enroll in that, then a tick box, then that's up to you, because the tick box is a little bit of extra code. It is up to you how you do it. The enroll box is a good idea, but so is the tick box. And that'll be in the next video.